Hi everyone, Dan here from Misty Acres Farm. You can find us on lifeonmistyacres.com, and today what I want to show you is the process of cooking maple sap and turning it into syrup. In other videos we've shown you how we've built our cooker, we've shown you videos of tapping trees and collecting sap, we've showed pictures of that sort of thing, but right now we are in the first week of April. It is a gorgeous spring this year, so things have gotten very warm very quickly as we're sitting at 70 some degrees today. And this is our final day of cooking. We've already cooked several batches of sap down, and this weekend's batch is our last batch for the season. And we just wanted to show you a little bit about that process. Here we have our fuel oil tank, which we've shown you in another video how we converted it into a cooker. And we also have our main pan here that we're cooking the sap down into, and we have our preheat pan. So the way the process goes is we start the day out, or start the morning out, where we put raw sap right into our main pan. We'll get a fire down here going in our cook box. We use old pallets that we get for free. We cut them up into pieces. We like using the pallets simply for the fact that our main source of heat is wood in the house, and it just seems wrong to use the firewood that we've worked so hard for when making maple sap. And so we have a free resource of pallets that we use, and we cut them all up to small enough pieces to fit inside of our cooker. And we like using them. The second reason we like using them is because we have a blend of wood. We've got pine, a lot of the stringers on the pallets are made out of oak, so we get a very hot fire, and that burns quickly and throws a lot of heat up to the main pan, which gets our boils going faster and gets them rolling more ferociously, so we evaporate more water more quickly. So we start the day off, like I said, with the raw sap in the main pan. We get a boil going as quickly as we can. We'll then fill our preheat pan with just raw sap again. So when we start out, everything's full of raw sap, but as this main pan, once that boil gets started, it starts to evaporate off the water and it begins to turn it into syrup. The color darkens throughout the day, and as that water level, or as that sap level drops in the main pan, we will then use the sap from the preheat pan and add it to it. So we continually are adding more sap to the process during each cook. The purpose of the preheat pan is you could just put your sap right into the main pan, but what it does is, most times it's not beautiful like it is right now. So when you add that sap to the main pan, a lot of times there's ice chunks or it's very cold, and you just kill your boil. The boil quits, and which doesn't hurt anything. So if you don't have a preheat pan, it's fine. It just lengthens the process because you drop that temperature back down. It stops evaporating until it can heat up and melt all of those ice chunks, and it brings it back to a boil, and you're just wasting more time. By having the preheat pan that we have here, we basically get this sap to be, it'll be almost simmering. It'll be at the very minimum, it'll be bath water warm. So when we add it using this valve, we'll usually just trickle it in, and we just trickle it in slowly, and it doesn't destroy our boil, and it just slowly adds that sap in so we can continue to cook it down. One thing that you have to continually do while you are cooking your sap is you want to skim off any foam or impurities. We just have a regular skimmer. It's just a fairly fine mesh screen that's on it, and you can use that skimmer and you just take off any foam, and with that foam comes a lot of impurities, dirt, debris, any bugs that might get in there, especially on a warmer season like this one is, and you just want to skim it off. The more that you skim and the more of that debris that you can take out in this earlier stages of the process, the less filtering you're going to have to do later. Because one of our next steps that we're going to do as we finish this batch is we're going to end up filtering everything that's in it. When we filter it, we'll use a flannel filter. Well, the more debris you leave in there, the more that filter clogs up and the slower the filtering process. So the more that you can get out while skimming, the better off you are. Once we've gotten to the point where we've added all the sap we intend to add to our warming pan, and once our preheat pan has been emptied, ours just lifts right off. We can discard it out of the way. Right now, we would like to make a change to our cooker that we haven't gotten to yet. So as it is right now, we will just stack pallets next to our cooker so that we can, once we get down to where we're very close to having the syrup, we can slide our whole main pan off of the heat. We then have a piece of steel we lay over our firebox just to keep all the ash and all those cinders from blowing up and coming out, which could land into our syrup. We cover that up to kind of contain those, and then we pull the pan off of our heat. Once you don't want to leave the pan on the heat as you're drawing it off, because you'll scorch. When you get just those last little puddles that are in the pan, that'll burn and scorch your pan. So we don't like to do that. And just because it's hard to control, the temperatures and the heat over a fire, once we get down to where we're getting close to having syrup, we'll pull ours off. We filter it one time through a flannel filter. We then take it into the house where we'll finish it on the stove in an enamel pan that we can, on our gas stove, we can control the heat much more precisely. We can monitor the temperature with a candy thermometer pretty exactly. So once we do it, we roll it off, we put our steel down. We'll then use this spigot where we will have our filter right below it, where we can open our valve and pour the sap, which is almost syrup at that point, pour it through our filter. When you filter, you want to do it when it's piping hot. You don't want to let the stuff in the pan cool down because it's going to filter much more slowly. So we pull it off, we run it through our filter, we strain it into pots. It's nice. We have our ball valve here, where if we fill a pot, we can shut it off, put another pot underneath, and continue the filtering process. If we need to change a filter because we have too much debris or sediment or sugar sand coming into it, we can easily do that because we have the valve there. Once we drain our entire pan, we take it in the house, and then we will finish the final steps right inside of our kitchen. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us or email us. But this is the way we do it on Life on Misty Acres.